We know what time it is, how it is now the moment for us to wake from sleep. Come, let us walk in the light of the Lord. Please be seated. Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to year A of our lectionary cycle. Now, I don't know about you, but I am feeling a bit exhausted from a week of eating turkey and so many potatoes, and from the mad dash to gobble up as much cranberry sauce as I could before my daughter Sophia ate it all. Cranberries are a hotly contested commodity in my household. So my brain and my body are moving a little slower than normal, but meanwhile, the world is just zipping ahead to the end of the calendar year. My email inbox is overflowing with Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, early Cyber Monday offers from every retailer from whom I have purchased anything in my lifetime. I am definitely feeling the pressure to buy to get ready for Christmas. As a seminarian, my classes are barreling ahead towards finals week, and I have so much work to do and so much reading to catch up on. So I am approaching our scripture lessons with a curious blend of mental exhaustion and increasing anxiety that I don't have nearly enough time to do all of the things that I need to do. I'm probably not alone, right?
Right.
And the more I read the news about the recent mass shootings, the invasion of Ukraine, the climate crisis, the earthquake in Indonesia, and the more I see those stories get replaced by yet another article about the bonkers thing that billionaire is doing with Twitter, or by the infighting within both of our major political parties, the more I feel the duality of paralysis and anxiety, the seductive call of despair. Come, let us walk in the light of the Lord. One of the things I find most comforting about today's lectionary is that these readings acknowledge that we are likely carrying the burden of trauma with us. Maybe we are facing the existential uncertainty like Isaiah's audience. Maybe we are marked by the trauma of exile and yearn for a happy return like those mentioned in Psalm 122. Maybe we are beset by fear of the end or of our end, like Matthew's and Paul's first century audiences. These readings encourage us not to bury the trauma and pretend it doesn't exist, but instead to deliberately choose to hope. As Paul reminds us, the night is far gone, the day is near. Amid the frenetic anxiety of this season, the Advent lessons in liturgy invite us to take a breath, to step away from the materialistic race and spend some time together, walking along God's path. Today we embark on a year-long study of Matthew's Gospel. Now, it may seem strange to begin with this snippet from chapter 24 of Jesus' final lessons to his disciples on the Mount of Olives outside Jerusalem. But maybe there's a hidden wisdom in our lectionary editors choosing to set the scene for our Advent journey with this glimpse of the end, of where it's all heading. One of the major themes of Matthew's Gospel is the unexpected nature of Jesus' reign, this ruler who upends all of our certainties about power and those who wield it. Matthew is full of unexpected reversals. So it is fitting that we begin our year of Matthew with this reminder to remain watchful, to exercise discernment, and to be deliberate about how we use our attention. Jesus reminds us that we cannot fall back on easy certainties or give in to the despair that threatens whenever we try to imagine what the future will bring. That despair can so easily sweep us away like a flood, can seem so certain, inevitable, inescapable, unending. John Green wrote in one of the essays of his excellent anthology, The Anthropocene Reviewed. By the way, Sarah, this one's for you. This book is amazing. So if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it, especially if you're into essays about choosing hope amid the trials of life. Now always feels infinite and never is. Believe. My friend Amy Krauss Rosenthal once told me to look at the word and be awed by it. See how it contains both be and live. Etymology dictionaries tell me that believe comes from Proto-Germanic roots meaning to hold dear or to care. I like that almost as much as Amy's etymology. I must choose to believe, to care, to hold dear. Come, let us walk in the light of the Lord. Isaiah's second chapter opens with a hopeful scene of God's promise to the faithful, a future city of peace and tranquility, a beacon of promise that those who live according to God's ways, walking along God's path, will experience a lasting peace that they can trust, and now enabling them to transform their implements of war and violence into creation and sustenance, living in concord with each other and with the earth. These hopeful words stand in contrast to Isaiah's first chapter, and indeed to most of the first 30 or so chapters of Isaiah, which details the degenerate city that has turned away from following God's path to delight in materialism and profit over people. But here we have a glimpse of the prophet's message. If the community turns from its self-serving ways, in order to learn God's ways, to walk in God's path and explore God's instructions, then they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. These words must have been incomprehensible to Isaiah's audience. He was speaking to a community living in the constant shadow of war as the nearby Assyrian Empire threatened to expand and consume the region. It doesn't take a great leap of imagination for us to sympathize with the ancient Israelites of Isaiah's day, right? I am not sure if there has been a period of lasting peace in my lifetime. We Americans live in a society that has greatly benefited from the industry of war. And it does seem incomprehensible that people would ever choose to dismantle the implements of violence. It isn't easy to choose hope. In the moments when despair calls to us, when our collective capacity for destruction seems irrevocable, and when it seems impossible that we could ever collectively pursue any degree of good, be it reducing global carbon emissions to keep the Earth's temperature within a livable range, or ever coming together to agree that it is not acceptable to have daily mass shootings. The choice to believe that there is hope for us can seem laughably naive. The act of choosing to hope has always been and will ever be radical. In celebrating Advent, we are not merely persisting in a countercultural urge to delay gratification. We are not the denominational equivalent of an old man standing on his lawn railing at his neighbors for putting up their Christmas decorations on November 1st. I am that old man, by the way, in my neighborhood. I'm like, you guys, it's not time yet. Advent gives us a season every year to practice this radical, difficult action. We acknowledge that we do not yet live in the promised reign of peace, but together we walk the path. We encourage each other. We deny the uncertainty of this moment, and we remember that our now is not infinite. Come, let us walk in the light of the Lord and hold on to our hope. Thanks be to God.
Amen.